Abandoned dog saves baby from drowning. 10 years later, something incredible happened. In the small lakeside town of Willowbrook, life seemed serene and predictable, a place where neighbors exchanged smiles and children played on the tree-lined streets. The town's centerpiece was Willowbrook Lake, a shimmering expanse of water that drew families for picnics and boat rides during the warmer months. Yet, beneath the surface of this idyllic town, stories of resilience and connection unfolded, often unnoticed. Before we dive in, let me know where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe. Let's dive into today's story. One chilly autumn morning, a golden retriever named Rocky wandered the outskirts of the town. His golden coat was matted and dusty, and his ribs faintly showed through his thin frame. Once a vibrant, well-loved pet, Rocky had been abandoned by his previous owners, who moved away without him. Left to fend for himself, Rocky had learned to navigate the streets with a combination of caution and determination, scavenging scraps and finding shelter wherever he could. Though life had been harsh to him, Rocky carried an air of quiet dignity. His soulful brown eyes reflected an innate intelligence and kindness that his rough circumstances hadn't diminished. The townspeople often spotted him wandering near the lake or resting under the shade of a tree in the park. Some threw him scraps of food, and children occasionally tried to pet him, but Rocky maintained a certain distance, never staying in one place for long. That particular morning, Rocky found himself near the lake. The mist rising from the water and the golden hues of the early sun created a tranquil scene. But something unusual caught his attention. His keen ears picked up the faint sound of crying, and his nose detected a scent, human, young, and distressed. His body tensed as he scanned the shoreline, his eyes locking onto a baby stroller perched precariously on the slope near the water. The stroller wobbled, its wheels edging closer to the lake's steep embankment. Inside was a baby, no older than a year, bundled in a soft pink blanket. The child, Bella, had bright blue eyes and a crown of fine golden curls. Her soft cries grew louder as the stroller tipped, the loose earth beneath its wheels giving way. In a heart-stopping moment, the stroller tumbled, sending Bella rolling down toward the icy water. Rocky didn't hesitate. His instincts, honed by survival, and his innate compassion drove him into action. He sprinted down the embankment, his paws pounding the damp earth as he closed the distance between himself and the baby. The stroller splashed into the shallow water, and Bella's blanket became tangled, slowing her descent, but still pulling her toward deeper waters. With a powerful leap, Rocky plunged into the freezing lake. The cold water gripped his body, but his focus never wavered. He swam with strong, purposeful strokes, his teeth clamping gently onto Bella's blanket. With a firm tug, he pulled the baby closer to the shore, her cries softening as the dog's warmth and determination enveloped her. On the shoreline, a jogger named Karen, who had been running nearby, spotted the commotion. She gasped in horror as she saw Rocky dragging Bella to safety. Racing to the scene, Karen splashed into the shallows and scooped the baby into her arms. "Oh my God, are you okay, sweetheart?" Karen's voice trembled as she inspected Bella, who was wet but unharmed. The baby looked at her with wide, teary eyes, then turned her gaze to Rocky, who stood nearby, water dripping from his golden coat. Karen turned to the dog, her voice softening. You saved her. You incredible boy!" Rocky wagged his tail hesitantly, his brown eyes meeting Karen's as if to say, "I was just doing what needed to be done." Karen quickly called the authorities, who arrived within minutes. The baby's frantic parents, Laura and James, had been searching desperately after realizing Bella's stroller had disappeared from the picnic area where they'd momentarily looked away. "Bella!" Laura cried, rushing toward her daughter. She clutched the baby tightly, her face streaked with tears of relief. "Oh, my baby, thank you," she sobbed, turning to Karen. "It wasn't me," Karen said, shaking her head. "It was him." She gestured toward Rocky, who stood a short distance away, shivering but still watchful. James looked at the dog, his expression shifting from confusion to awe. "That dog saved her?" Karen nodded. "He pulled her out of the lake. Without him?" Her voice faltered, but the implication was clear. A police officer knelt beside Rocky, gently stroking his head. "Looks like we've got ourselves a hero," he said with a smile. The parents showered Rocky with gratitude, but their lives were too chaotic to take on the responsibility of a dog, even one as extraordinary as him. Karen, touched by the dog's bravery, offered to care for him temporarily while she searched for a permanent home. For the next few weeks, Rocky stayed with Karen and her young son, Evan. Evan adored Rocky, often sitting beside him on the porch, telling him stories about school and slipping him extra treats during dinner. Karen noticed how gentle and patient Rocky was with Evan, especially during moments when her son needed comfort. Though Karen loved having Rocky around, her small apartment and demanding schedule made it difficult to give him the life she felt he deserved. Eventually, Karen found a home for Rocky with Henry, a kind-hearted farmer who lived on the outskirts of Willowbrook. Henry, a retired widower with acres of open land, had been looking for a companion. When he met Rocky, he was immediately struck by the dog's calm demeanor and intelligent gaze. "You've been through a lot, haven't you?" Henry said softly, scratching behind Rocky's ears. "Well, you'll never have to worry again. This is your home now." Rocky settled into farm life quickly. He spent his days roaming the fields, herding Henry's small flock of sheep, and basking in the warmth of the sun. Henry treated him like family, often talking to Rocky as he worked. Though Rocky seemed content, there were moments when he would sit on the hill overlooking the town, his eyes fixed on the distant lake. Henry often wondered if the dog was remembering something or someone from his past. As the seasons changed, so did the years. Bella grew into a lively, curious girl, her golden curls and bright eyes a testament to the baby Rocky had saved. Though she didn't remember the incident, her parents often told her the story, describing the heroic golden retriever who had pulled her from the lake. Bella would listen with wide eyes, dreaming of the day she might meet a dog like Rocky. But little did she know, their paths were destined to cross again in a way that neither of them could have imagined. The years rolled on, and Willowbrook remained much the same, a quiet town with its shimmering lake, tree-lined streets, and a close-knit community. For Bella, life was filled with school, friends, and a natural curiosity that often had her exploring the outdoors. At 10 years old, she had grown into a spirited and adventurous girl, her golden curls framing her face and her bright blue eyes alight with wonder. Her parents, Laura and James, often marveled at how much Bella loved the outdoors, especially the lake where her life had been saved all those years ago. Though she didn't remember the incident, She felt an inexplicable connection to the water. Every summer, she would beg her parents to take her there for swimming and picnics, and they always obliged. Meanwhile, Rocky lived a content life on Henry's farm. The golden retriever's once matted coat had grown thick and glossy, a testament to the care and love he received from Henry. The old farmer treated Rocky like a loyal companion, often talking to him about the day's events while they worked side by side. Though Rocky had found peace, his days of heroism felt like a distant memory, buried beneath the rhythm of farm life. However, there were moments when Rocky would sit on the porch, gazing toward Willowbrook, his eyes thoughtful and distant. Henry often noticed this and wondered if the dog was remembering something or someone from his past. "You've got a lot of stories in that head of yours, don't you, boy?" Henry would say, patting Rocky's side. The dog would wag his tail softly, but remain fixated on the horizon, as if waiting for something he couldn't quite name. It was a crisp spring morning when Bella and her parents decided to visit the lake. The water sparkled under the sunlight, and the air was filled with the sound of chirping birds and children's laughter. Bella was ecstatic as she ran ahead, carrying her small backpack filled with snacks, a towel, and her sketchbook. She loved to sit by the water and draw the scenes around her. As Bella wandered along the shore, her parents settled under a tree, unpacking their picnic basket. "Don't go too far," Laura called out, watching her daughter skip stones across the lake. "I won't, Mom," Bella shouted back, her voice full of joy. That same morning, Henry decided to bring Rocky into town for a trip to the farmer's market. Rocky loved the outing. It was a chance to interact with the townsfolk, who always greeted him with friendly pats and treats. As they loaded up the truck, Rocky seemed unusually alert. His ears perked and his gaze fixed toward Willowbrook. "You're eager today, huh?" Henry chuckled, scratching behind Rocky's ears. "Let's go, boy." The drive to town was uneventful, but as soon as they arrived, Rocky's behavior changed. He sniffed the air intently, his body tense, as if he were searching for something. Henry noticed the dog's unease, but assumed it was the bustling crowd that had him on edge. "Come on, Rocky. Stay close," he said, leading him through the market. Rocky obeyed, but his attention kept drifting toward the direction of the lake. Something was pulling him, a deep instinct that he couldn't ignore. As Henry stopped to chat with a vendor, Rocky took the opportunity to slip away, his nose leading him down a familiar path. Back at the lake, Bella had ventured a little further along the shoreline, her sketchbook balanced on her knees as she doodled. She loved the tranquility of the spot, the way the gentle waves lapped against the rocks and the sunlight danced on the water. She was so absorbed in her drawing that she didn't notice the loose earth beneath her feet until it was too late. With a sudden shift, the ground gave way, and Bella slid down the embankment, her sketchbook tumbling into the water. She let out a startled cry as her legs splashed into the shallows. The cold water shocked her, and she struggled to find her footing on the slippery rocks. Laura and James, hearing Bella's cry, sprang to their feet. "Bella!" Laura screamed, running toward the sound. But before they could reach her, a flash of golden fur darted past them. Rocky had found his way to the lake, his instincts guiding him like a compass. The moment he heard Bella's cry, his body surged with adrenaline. Without hesitation, he bounded down the embankment, his paws skidding on the loose dirt as he made his way to the water's edge. Bella, clinging to a jagged rock, looked up to see the golden retriever wading toward her. His soulful brown eyes locked onto hers, and a wave of calm washed over her despite the panic of the situation. "It's okay, girl." Henry's voice echoed in Rocky's mind, a reassurance that had become second nature to him. Rocky reached Bella, his sturdy frame providing a solid anchor. She grabbed hold of his collar, and with slow, steady steps, Rocky guided her back to the shore. His movements were deliberate and strong, each step ensuring her safety. By the time Laura and James reached them, Bella was out of the water, her arms wrapped tightly around Rocky's neck. "Mom, Dad, this dog saved me!" she exclaimed, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and relief. Laura dropped to her knees, embracing her daughter and thanking the dog profusely. James looked at Rocky, his eyes widening with recognition. "Could it be?" he murmured. Moments later, Henry arrived at the lake, breathless and frantic. "Rocky, there you are," he called out, relief flooding his face when he saw the dog safe and sound. But as he approached, he noticed the family gathered around Rocky, their expressions filled with gratitude. "Is this your dog?" Laura asked, her voice still shaking. Henry nodded. "Yes, ma'am. His name's Rocky. He's been with me for years now." James stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the dog. "This might sound crazy, but could this be the same dog who saved Bella when she was a baby?" Henry frowned, confused. "Saved her? I'm not sure what you mean." Laura quickly recounted the story of Bella's rescue at the lake all those years ago. As she spoke, Henry's expression softened, and he looked at Rocky with newfound awe. "I always knew there was something special about this dog," Henry said quietly. "But to think he saved her twice." Bella knelt beside Rocky, wrapping her arms around him once more. "You're my hero," she whispered, her golden curls brushing against his fur. Rocky's tail wagged softly, his brown eyes reflecting a quiet understanding. He had found her again, and though a decade had passed, the bond between them was undeniable. As the group stood by the water's edge, the serendipity of the moment hung heavy in the air. It was clear that Rocky's journey wasn't over, and this time his connection to Bella might finally lead him to the home he had always deserved. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, painting the lake with hues of amber and gold, the Williams family lingered at the shoreline with Rocky and Henry. The day's events had left everyone shaken, but a quiet sense of awe hung in the air. Bella, still damp but brimming with excitement, refused to leave Rocky's side. The golden retriever stayed close, his gentle brown eyes watching her every move. "I can't believe he saved me," Bella said, her voice filled with wonder as she ran her small fingers through his glossy fur. "Twice." Henry chuckled, though his voice carried a note of disbelief. "It seems Rocky has a knack for being in the right place at the right time. I've always said he's special. But this?" Laura, her golden hair catching the fading sunlight, smiled warmly. "I don't think it's just luck," she said. "There's something about him, something almost meant to be." James, still deep in thought, looked at Rocky intently. His sharp green eyes softened as he spoke. "Henry, I don't mean to impose, but have you ever considered letting Rocky live somewhere else? With Bella, I mean." Henry blinked in surprise, glancing down at Rocky, who was now lying peacefully at Bella's feet, his tail wagging lazily. "Well, I'll admit I never planned on keeping Rocky forever," he admitted. "I found him wandering the streets, just skin and bones. Took him in because no one else would. But now, he's family to me. I can't imagine letting him go." Bella's blue eyes widened, her heart sinking at the thought of losing Rocky again. She looked up at Henry, her voice trembling with hope. "Please, Mr. Henry, he's my hero. He saved me twice. Can he stay with us? I'll take care of him, I promise." Henry scratched his chin thoughtfully, his weathered face showing his inner conflict. "You know, Bella, Rocky's been through a lot. It took him years to trust people again, but seeing how he looks at you—" He trailed off, his voice softening. "I can tell he's already made his decision." Bella gasped, a radiant smile spreading across her face as she threw her arms around Rocky's neck. "Thank you! Thank you so much!" she cried, her joy spilling over. Laura placed a hand on Henry's shoulder, her voice filled with gratitude. "We'll take good care of him, Henry. You have our word." Henry nodded, though his eyes glistened with emotion. "I know you will, but," he added with a gentle smile, "I'd like to visit him now and then. He's been my companion for a long time." That evening, Rocky rode home with the Williams family, his place in their lives cemented by fate and bravery. As they drove, Bella rested her head against his soft fur, her small hands stroking him as she whispered stories about the adventures they would have together. Rocky's tail thumped against the seat in response, as if he understood every word. When they arrived home, Bella eagerly showed Rocky around the house, pointing out every corner as if he were a long-lost friend finally coming home. "This is my room," she announced, leading him to a cozy space decorated with colorful drawings, stuffed animals, and a small bed covered in a yellow quilt. Laura laughed softly, watching from the doorway. "I think Rocky might like his own bed, sweetheart." "But he can sleep here if he wants, right?" Bella asked, her eyes pleading. James stepped into the room, holding a new dog bed they had picked up on the way home. "How about we put this next to your bed?" he suggested. "That way, Rocky can keep an eye on you at night." Bella nodded eagerly, helping arrange the bed in just the right spot. "Good night, Rocky," she whispered later as she climbed into her own bed. "Thank you for saving me." Rocky settled into his new bed with a soft sigh, his eyes half closed as he watched over her. Over the following weeks, Rocky adapted seamlessly to his new home. He became Bella's shadow, following her everywhere with a quiet, watchful presence. Whether she was playing in the yard, working on her homework, or simply sitting by the window reading a book, Rocky was always there, his loyalty unwavering. One sunny afternoon, Bella decided to take Rocky on a walk around the neighborhood. She proudly held his leash, chatting with him as they strolled past houses and gardens. Many neighbors stopped to greet them, their smiles widening when they heard the story of Rocky's heroism. "Quite the dog you got there," said Mrs. Henderson, a kind elderly woman with silver hair tied back in a bun. She bent down to scratch Rocky behind the ears, earning a wag of his tail. "He's a blessing, that one. You take good care of him, Bella." "I will," Bella replied enthusiastically. "He's my best friend." Rocky seemed to thrive in his new role, his demeanor reflecting the peace and happiness he had found with the Williams family. He played fetch with Bella in the yard, napped contentedly at her feet, and even learned new tricks that she taught him with boundless enthusiasm. The bond between them deepened every day, And Laura often remarked how much more confident and joyful Bella had become since Rocky came into their lives. But despite the calm and contentment that now defined their days, there was an unspoken understanding in the family that Rocky had already proven himself to be more than a pet. He was a guardian, a protector who had a unique sense of when he was needed most. It was a quality that set him apart, and one that the Williams family would come to rely on in ways they couldn't yet imagine. One evening, as the family gathered in the living room for a movie night, Bella sat on the floor with Rocky curled up beside her. "Do you think he remembers saving me when I was a baby?" Bella asked, looking up at her parents. James smiled, leaning forward to pat Rocky's head. "Dogs like Rocky don't forget things like that," he said. "I think he knew exactly who you were the moment he saw you at the lake." Laura nodded, her expression thoughtful. "It's almost like he was waiting for you," she said softly, "like he knew you'd find each other again." Bella smiled, hugging Rocky tightly. "I'm glad you found me, Rocky," she whispered. "I'll take care of you forever." As Rocky leaned into Bella's embrace, his tail wagging slowly, it was clear that he felt the same. Their bond, forged in moments of danger and serendipity, had only grown stronger. And though none of them could predict what lay ahead, one thing was certain: Rocky would always be there, ready to protect the family he had chosen as his own. The Williams family had settled into a new rhythm, with Rocky, their golden retriever, becoming an inseparable part of their lives. Over the years, Rocky had not only brought joy and companionship to their home, but had also become a symbol of strength and resilience. His connection with Bella, now a vibrant teenager, was profound, a bond that seemed almost fated. On a warm spring afternoon, the family prepared for Bella's 16th birthday celebration. The backyard was filled with colorful balloons, long picnic tables adorned with floral centerpieces, and a large banner that read, "Happy Sweet 16, Bella." Bella, dressed in a pastel pink sundress, ran her fingers through her wavy blonde hair as she finished arranging plates. Her sparkling blue eyes lit up with excitement as she watched her friends arrive, arms full of gifts. Rocky, now with a touch of gray on his muzzle but still as sprightly as ever, weaved through the crowd, accepting pats and scratches from guests. Despite his age, he remained vigilant, his warm brown eyes scanning the yard as if ensuring everything was safe for his family. As the party got into full swing, Bella found herself surrounded by laughter and love. Music played softly, and friends took turns sharing stories about their favorite memories with her. Rocky stayed close, resting his head on her lap as she sat on a bench, listening and laughing. "I don't think this day could get any better," Bella said, scratching behind Rocky's ears. The dog gave a low, contented woof, his tail wagging lazily. As the sun began to set, Bella decided to take Rocky for a short walk along the wooded trail behind their home, a path they often explored together. The air was crisp, filled with the earthy scent of blooming flowers and pine needles. Bella hummed a tune, holding Rocky's leash loosely as he trotted beside her. "Do you remember when we first met, boy?" Bella asked, her voice soft. "You saved me twice. I don't know how you always seem to know when I need you, but I'm so glad you're here." Rocky glanced up at her, his gaze warm and understanding. He nudged her hand gently with his nose, his way of affirming the unspoken bond between them. As they ventured deeper into the trail, Bella noticed the quiet around them. The usual chorus of birds and rustling leaves seemed oddly subdued. She slowed her pace, a slight unease creeping over her. Rocky, ever perceptive, stiffened slightly, his ears perking up as he sniffed the air. "Is something wrong?" Bella asked, her brow furrowing. Rocky's tail lowered and his body tensed. He let out a low growl, a sound Bella hadn't heard from him in years. Suddenly, a sharp rustling came from the brush nearby. Before Bella could react, a man stepped out from behind the trees, his face partially obscured by a hood. He carried an air of menace, his eyes narrowing as he noticed Bella and Rocky. "Hey there," the man said, his voice gruff. "You shouldn't be out here alone." Bella took a step back, her heart pounding. "I'm not alone," she said firmly, gripping Rocky's leash tightly. The golden retriever stood protectively in front of her, his teeth bared and a deep growl rumbling from his chest. The man smirked, but his confidence faltered under Rocky's intense gaze. "Nice dog," he said, though his tone was less assured. "You better get home." As the man moved closer, Rocky lunged forward, barking fiercely. The sound echoed through the quiet woods, startling birds into flight. Bella stumbled backward, her breath hitching as fear took hold. Just as the man reached for her, Rocky snapped at his hand, forcing him to retreat. The dog's stance was unyielding, his powerful frame a barrier between Bella and the threat. The man, realizing he was outmatched, cursed under his breath before disappearing back into the woods. Bella collapsed to her knees, tears streaming down her face as she clung to Rocky. "You did it again," she whispered, her voice shaking. "You saved me again." Rocky licked her face gently, his tail wagging slightly as if to reassure her that everything was okay. For a moment, the world seemed to stand still, the gravity of what had just happened sinking in. When Bella and Rocky returned home, James and Laura immediately noticed her shaken expression. "Bella, what happened?" Laura asked, rushing to her side. Between sobs, Bella recounted the incident, her voice trembling as she described how Rocky had protected her. James's jaw tightened, his green eyes flashing with anger. "We're calling the police," he said, pulling out his phone. As Bella calmed down, she stroked Rocky's fur, her gratitude for him overwhelming. "I don't know what I'd do without you," she whispered. The family gathered around Rocky that evening, showering him with affection. "He's more than just a dog," Laura said, her voice thick with emotion. "He's our guardian angel." The next morning, Bella sat with Rocky on the back porch, the early sunlight casting a golden glow over them. "I've been thinking, boy," she said softly. "You've saved me twice now. I think it's time we made it official." Later that day, the family took Rocky to the vet and filled out the necessary paperwork to officially adopt him. Though he had been theirs in every way that mattered, the moment felt symbolic, solidifying the bond that had formed years ago on the edge of a lake. When they returned home, Bella placed a shiny new tag on Rocky's collar. It read, "Rocky, our hero." The dog wagged his tail enthusiastically, as if he understood the significance of the moment. As the years passed, Rocky remained a cherished member of the Williams family. Though his muzzle grew grayer and his steps slower, his spirit never wavered. Bella, now a young woman preparing for college, often reflected on the incredible role Rocky had played in her life. One evening, as she sat by the fire with Rocky resting his head on her lap, Bella smiled down at him. "You've been with me through everything," she said. "I don't know how I got so lucky, but I'm so grateful." Rocky let out a soft huff, his tail wagging gently. It was as though he understood every word. The bond between Bella and Rocky was one of pure love and loyalty, a connection that had stood the test of time. And as Bella looked into Rocky's warm, trusting eyes, she knew that their story, though marked by moments of danger, was ultimately one of hope, courage, and the unbreakable bond between a girl and her dog.